The 2023 NBA draft just went down, and in my opinion, there was a lot of winners and a few losers, and I'm going to go over all of them in this video. Now, a quick disclaimer before I do get in this video. Actually, two things. One, I am most likely wrong about some of these, if not all of them, so please do not come witch hunt me if I said your team is a loser or you didn't put them as a winner and you thought they were. And then two, I am going to mispronounce some names in this video. I know that. You don't have to comment it anymore. I know I'm going to mispronounce the names. Okay? So get it out of your system now, and let's get into this video. So the first thing we're going to get into is going to be the winners of the NBA draft, in my opinion, and I actually think there are quite a few winners, and the first one is going to be the San Antonio Spurs, and I know what you're thinking. It's not only because they drafted Victor Wembanyama. Now, yes, that is a huge piece. Victor Wembanyama is one of the best prospects to ever come in the NBA draft. He's 7'5", insane skill to go along with it. Could be one of the best two-way players of all time if he can stay healthy, and there's just so much promise going with him, and obviously that is a huge reason why they're on this list, but another reason is because at 44th, they were able to get Sidy Cissoko, and I know I fucked up his name right there. Please don't comment it. But still, that kid in the G League was very, very solid. He has a very high two-way potential, and he is just an extremely, extremely good defender. And on top of that, his athleticism's there. He plays with high energy, and even his offensive upside shone through. Now, yes, he wasn't a great three-point shooter in the G League, but he did show promise that he can do it, and he is also a very good slasher and can pull up in mid-range every once in a while. And I think with the Spurs development system and how good they are at developing young talent, I think Sidy is going to be a great addition to this team, and I think they got two extremely good players that are going to be very, very productive for them pretty quickly on due to how young they are and how good this young core is, and I just think the Spurs got a lot better through this draft. And now the second winner in this video is going to be the Utah Jazz. And in my opinion, the Utah Jazz had the best draft out of every team in the entire NBA. As at number 9, they got Taylor Hendricks, who could potentially, outside of Victor Wembanyama, be the best two-way player in this draft. He is an elite defender. He can protect the rim and guard the perimeter, all while being a very, very efficient scorer and very solid player on the offensive end. And he can make his own shot from all three levels. He's just very, very solid, great length. And I think overall, Taylor Hendricks is going to be a great pick for them to have at number 9. And then they got Keyonte George at 16, and although I'm not the biggest fan of Keyonte George, I still see the potential, and at worst he's going to be a floor spacing guard for them, and at best he could be a very good playmaking for himself kind of shot creating guard that could be very, very solid in the NBA. So if he hits his potential, that is a home run at 16, and even at his worst, if he's just a floor spacer, you can never have enough shooting on your team. And then just to add a little bit more shooting, at number 28 they got Bryce Sensabaugh, and I think Bryce Sensabaugh is going to be a very, very solid player in the NBA. He can shoot the hell out of the ball. He plays with extreme energy, very strong, kind of one of those like Desmond Bane built players, how he's built, but they kind of play kind of differently as well. And I just think Bryce Sensabaugh is going to be a great player for them going years and years down the line. And I think all three of these players are going to be extremely good players for them pretty much off the rip. And the third team on the list is going to be the Los Angeles Lakers. And the Los Angeles Lakers started their draft by picking Jalen Hood-Schifino at number 17. And I think this makes a lot of sense because off their bench, it now gives them a bona fide bucket off their bench. Like, he is going to be that dude on offense, maybe not from right away, but his offensive talent is undeniable. Now, yes, his defense isn't great and his efficiency isn't great, but hopefully that develops over time. And I think Jalen Hood-Schifino has a potential to be one of the better scorers off anyone's bench in a few years' time. And I think he was a great pick with 17. And to make this draft even better, at the 40th overall pick, they went and got Maxwell Lewis Jr. out of Pepperdine. Now, Maxwell Lewis Jr. legitimately could develop into a star level player one day. He has NBA size. He's a small forward. He's just a very good offensive player, can legitimately make his shot from wherever he is on the court at all three levels. And now his defense isn't great, and he kind of fell off towards the end of the year. That's why he fell in the draft so much. But there was a time where he was probably a top 15 prospect for a very long time, and I think Maxwell Lewis legitimately on the offensive end has a chance to be a star one day. So I think that was two excellent picks for the Lakers as well, and with them still trying to contend for championships with LeBron and Anthony Davis on the roster, I think that they went a very, very long way in helping them do that next year. And now next up we have the Indiana Pacers, and the Indiana Pacers are basically on this list every single year. They're a very, very solid drafting team, and they continued that pattern going into this year, as at number 8 they got got Jarace Walker. Now, Jarace Walker, I'm not as big of a fan as most people, but in my opinion, I think he's kind of an Isaiah Stewart with a better jump shot, which is still an extremely solid player. Jarace Walker is a beast on the defensive end, and his offensive game, although still needs to develop a little bit, I think it's farther along than Isaiah Stewart's where it's coming into the game in the NBA. So I think he's going to be a little bit better of a prospect, and I think they got another type, kind of Stewart type player in him, and that is going to be very, very valuable to them as well. And then they were able to get Ben Sheppard at 26. Ben Sheppard is an absolute bucket. He can shoot. He's a very, very solid shooter. He can kind of score from everywhere. He has good length as well. It helps him shoot over people. And I just think overall they got a very solid bench scoring piece that's going to fit very well on this team. And then at 47, they were able to get Mojave King. I'm pretty sure that's how you say his name. He was also out of the G League. Now, once again, I'm not the biggest fan on King, but I do think he has potential to develop into a floor spacer guard in like specific moments and could be a knockdown shooter one day. That he really, in my opinion, doesn't have that high of a ceiling. But the biggest reason I have him on here is because Isaiah Wong at 55, I think is going to be an absolute steal. Wong is out of Miami. He was a huge piece to what they were doing when they made it to the Final Four in their like Cinderella run. And he was just extremely, extremely good. He's a scorer, complete bucket on that end. He has good size, good height, and he just overall, he's going to be a very solid player. And to get that at 55 is extremely, extremely valuable. So I think they're able to add 3 players that are going to contribute this year on this team, and I think it's going to be very fun to watch. And now the next team I want to get into is going to be the Charlotte Hornets. Now, the Charlotte Hornets are very surprising to be on a list of winners in any NBA draft, okay? But in my opinion, they made the right decision by picking Brandon Miller and not Scoot Henderson in the second overall pick for a few reasons. One, I think Brandon Miller is just the better player. And then 2, I think he fits way better with LaMelo than what Scoot Henderson would have. I think they're going to have a much easier time building around LaMelo and Brandon Miller than they would have in Scoot and LaMelo. So I think for sure the Hornets made the right pick with that. And I think Brandon Miller is going to be a great player for years and years to come for them and should be a great partner to put alongside LaMelo. And then at 27, they picked Nick Smith Jr. as well. And I think Nick Smith Jr. has potential to be a star level guard off of someone's bench or even starting one day, even if it's on the Hornets or not. But I think Nick Smith Jr. could be an absolute bucket because before his injury, he was playing almost as good as anyone else in college basketball. Then he got injured and he kind of struggled to come back a little bit. But if you look at his stats like after the injury, they were extremely, extremely good as well. And I think Nick Smith Jr. just fell due to like kind of overthinking a little bit due to his injuries. And I think he is going to be a great player even if he doesn't develop into a star. I think he's going to be a very solid offensive weapon for the Charlotte Hornets for even just the start of next year, because I think they're kind of starting to give up on Bounk Knight because he just isn't looking like he's going to end up being that good. And then they also got Amari Bailey, and Amari Bailey is another one of those players that could have immense high ceiling. Now, yes, he isn't the greatest right now, but his ceiling is extremely, extremely high. And to get that at 42, you take a swing, a home run swing, hope for the best, and no telling how good he could be as well. And now the second to last winner on this list is going to be the Golden State Warriors, and I have them on here because they had made, in my opinion, 2 excellent draft decisions. Their first one was picking Brandon Podziemski, I think that's how you pronounce his name, but I actually really did enjoy him. Now, I'm not that high on some people. Some people think he's a bona fide star, and I don't think they're wrong, but I'm not that high on him. I think he's going to be very, very solid, though. And I think with them just trading Jordan Poole away to get another guy that can score on all 3 levels and make a bucket himself, that is very valuable to get at 19. They were trying to replace what Jordan Poole is going to be leaving, and I think that's very valuable that they are able to find a replacement this quickly after trading him. And then also at 57, they got Trayce Jackson-Davis. Now, if you don't know who Trayce Jackson-Davis is, he is going to be almost a perfect Draymond Green replacement, even if it's not next year and they re-sign Green in a few years down the line. He can play very solid defense. He's one of the best post scorers in the NBA, in the college last year. He's going to be a very solid defender as well, and he's a very smart player, and developing behind someone like Draymond Green is going to be very, very valuable for him. And I think Trayce Jackson-Davis could be the steal of this draft at 57 because his value to where he was picked is extremely, extremely good ratio-wise, in my opinion. And I think the Warriors got absolute steals with Trayce Jackson-Davis all the way at the 57, which was the second to last pick in the NBA draft. And now the final team on the winners list is going to be the Portland Trailblazers. Now, I know some people are upset with Portland for really making their pick and like not trying to get Damian Lillard some help, but in my opinion, at this point, they're better off trading Damian Lillard for tons of picks or young guys and rebuilding that way. I think that's their best shot of winning a championship anytime soon. I don't think they're going to be able to do it with Damian Lillard. But what Portland was able to do in this draft was very impressive, as they got Scoot Henderson with the number 3 overall pick. And Scoot Henderson, although I did have him as my 3rd best prospect, it went Wembanyama, obviously, Brandon Miller, Scoot Henderson, and then there's a pretty big drop-off after that, prospect-wise, and I think the Portland Trailblazers got a great player in Scoot, and even if they do trade Dame, they still have Anthony Simons to play shooting guard with him, or even move Anthony Simons to point guard, however you want to do it, and they're going to have a great backcourt duo for a very long time, and then on top of that, they were able to get Chris Murray to probably back up Shadon Sharpe this year, and Chris Murray is one of my, kind of sleeper prospects. I really liked him. I don't think he will be a star or anything, but I do think he's going to be a very, very solid, methodical player that any team wants to have off their bench, and he is a very solid 3-way scorer as well, so I think that coming off the bench for Shadon Sharpe is going to be extremely, extremely good going into next season. And then at 43, they also picked Ryan Rupert. Now, I was kind of iffy on Ryan Rupert. I don't know what to say about him. I think he's going to be okay. I don't think he's going to be great, but at worst or at best, I think they got an average role player, and that's not bad to get at 43 at all. And then the only honorable mention on this list is going to be the Sacramento Kings, and they only added one player, and they got Colby Jones. I just think that he was very good value for where they got him, and I think overall that was just a very good addition for the team, but they're just an honorable mention. They're not really on the winners list because they only added one guy. And now it's time to make some people mad as we move on to the losers on this list, and there's only 3 losers in my opinion. The first one is going to be the Boston Celtics, who went and picked James Nagy at 31, and James Nagy, in my opinion, is just one of the more overhyped prospects. Yes, he's a solid defender, he's very young, and he is athletic, but that is as far as it goes. He is very little touch, if any touch you could say, at that level. He didn't perform very well at the pro level, and I just think overall he's kind of overhyped, and unless his athleticism just becomes otherworldly and by the time he's 20, I don't see him really ever being that productive. And on top of that, you have Robert Williams and Al Horford and Kristaps Porzingis now all ahead of him, so there's literally almost no chance besides injury that he does get to play. So I just don't think he's going to be able to develop that talent that he does have. So overall, I just don't think James Nagy is going to be a great player for them, and I don't think he was going to be a great player for really any team he would have went on, and I was kind of lower on him than most, and I just overall don't think he is going to be very much. And then they also went and got Jordan Walsh out of Arkansas. Now, Jordan Walsh is a solid, okay pick, I guess. He's a very good defender, has a lot of work to do on offense, and in my opinion, they kind of picked Andre Roberson. And I don't know if the Celtics team was in need of an Andre Roberson, and I don't think he'll play basically at all for them. And so I think the Celtics really wasted 2 picks, and there were better players available too. Now, probably no rookie would have played for them, but I think long-term wise, development-wise, I don't think either one of these players have high enough ceilings, and they didn't really swing for the fences like you would want to see a contending team really do. So I think overall the Celtics just had a kind of weird draft. And then the Chicago Bulls are my next loser as well, and they only made 1 pick, and that was trading back into the draft for Julian Phillips. And in my opinion, Julian Phillips is an absolute bust. I don't think he's going to be very good at all. He's one of those prospects that only has athleticism, and that is literally it, and that almost barely ever works out, if ever works out, unless you're Shaq in the NBA. And I just think he's not going to work, and to make it worse, they traded for this pick, so they gave up stuff to draft Julian Phillips, which I just think is just a complete bust. So I just think that was a terrible pick. And then also, they already have a guy like Patrick Williams, who is a much better version of Julian Phillips, don't get me wrong, but they don't. Why would you want another one? And that's kind of what they did, and they got the worst version of it. So I just don't think the Chicago Bulls made any sense with how they drafted and traded into this draft for Julian Phillips. I don't think that made any sense. And then the final loser in this video is going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, the Milwaukee Bucks, at least they swung for the fences, because they did draft Andre Jackson Jr., and they kind of have a type. Like last year, they picked Marjon Beauchamp, I think, and he's kind of the same guy. So at least they have a type. But in my opinion, that type just doesn't work out. I wasn't a fan of Beauchamp coming in last year, and although I kind of see the appeal to Andre Jackson Jr. because he can handle the ball and he's extremely athletic and strong, he doesn't have much skills to back that up, and I just don't think he's going to ever work out for them. And I think, yes, his ceiling is high. I don't think he's going to get there. I just don't. And then they also drafted Chris Livingston, but Chris Livingston was the last pick in the draft, so you give him some leeway for that. But I still think there were some better players available, and I just don't think Livingston's ever going to do much. And but it was the last pick, so I'll give him some leeway for that. I just really didn't like the Andre Jackson Jr. at 36 pick because there were better players available at the time, and that's the main reason they are here. But unfortunately, guys, that's the move for this video. So comment below, do you agree with me? Do you think these are the winners or losers? Do you think I missed a team on either side? Or any of your thoughts in the comment section below? And if you like the point, hit the like button and subscribe button. I mean the absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day. Could I have a blessed day? So you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah, blah.